Prince Daehyun stood by the window of his small library, watching the 3 moons rise over the imperial capital. He was the 3rd son of Emperor Kangmin, and everyone in the palace knew what that meant. He would never rule. His brothers would make sure of that. Taejin, the eldest, was a warrior. He commanded fleets and conquered planets. The nobles loved him because he was strong and ruthless. Young-ho, the 2nd son, was clever and cruel. He controlled the secret police and knew everyone's secrets. Both brothers wanted the throne, and both would kill to get it. Daehyun was different. He read books. He wrote papers about reforming the government. He talked about giving common people a voice in how the empire was run. The nobles laughed at him behind his back. They called him the scholar prince, the weak one, the fool who would never matter. His father, the emperor, was dying. Everyone knew it. The old man had been sick for months, growing weaker each day. Soon there would be a funeral. Then there would be a new emperor, and Daehyun would probably be dead shortly after that. His brothers wouldn't risk leaving him alive. A servant entered the library and bowed. "My prince, your presence is required at the royal banquet. The human delegation has arrived." Daehyun sighed. Another boring dinner where he would sit at the far end of the table and be ignored. But the humans were interesting, at least. Earth was a new member of the galactic community. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 30 years ago. Most species treated them like children playing at being adults. The Great Hall was already full when Daehyun arrived. Hundreds of nobles in their finest clothes filled the room. At the high table sat his father, looking pale and tired. Taejin sat on his right side, wearing his military uniform covered in medals. Young-ho sat on the left, smiling his cold smile. Daehyun found his seat near the end of the table, far from the important people. He didn't mind. From here he could watch and think without anyone bothering him. The human delegation entered and the hall grew quiet. There were 5 of them, all wearing simple dark suits. The leader was a man who looked to be in his 30s, with sharp eyes and an easy smile. He walked with the confidence of someone who feared nothing. "Emperor Kangmin," the human said, bowing slightly. "I am Captain Hyunwoo Park of the Terran Diplomatic Corps. Earth sends its respect and hopes for continued friendship." The emperor nodded weakly. "Welcome, Captain Park. Please sit and eat with us." The feast began. Servants brought course after course of expensive food from across the empire. Wine flowed freely. The nobles talked and laughed, showing off their wealth and power. Daehyun ate quietly, watching the humans. They were polite but seemed unimpressed by all the luxury around them. Captain Hyunwoo Park caught his eye once and nodded. Daehyun nodded back, surprised that anyone had noticed him. Hours passed. The emperor retired early, too weak to stay. Taejin stood and raised his glass. "To our father's health," he shouted. Everyone drank. But Daehyun saw the look in his brother's eyes. Taejin wasn't toasting their father's health. He was counting the days until the old man died. Then everything went wrong. The lights went out. In the darkness, Daehyun heard screams. He jumped to his feet, knocking over his chair. Flashes of weapons fire lit the hall in quick bursts. Bodies fell. Someone was attacking. Daehyun's heart pounded. He needed to move, to run, to hide. But where? In the chaos, he couldn't see anything. A hand grabbed his arm and he tried to pull away. "Don't fight me if you want to live," a voice said in his ear. It was Captain Park. The human pulled him down as weapons fire passed over their heads. "Stay low and follow me." They crawled between tables as the battle raged around them. Daehyun saw his father's bodyguards fighting against other guards. The Imperial soldiers were killing each other. This wasn't an outside attack. This was a coup. His brothers had made their move. Captain Park moved fast, pulling Daehyun toward a side door. They reached it and slipped through just as an explosion shook the hall. The human slammed the door shut and locked it. "Run," Park said simply. They ran through the palace corridors. Behind them, Daehyun could hear shouting and more weapons fire. Park seemed to know exactly where to go, turning down hallways and through servants' passages that Daehyun barely remembered existed. "How do you know the way?" Daehyun gasped as they ran. "We studied the palace plans before we came," Park said. "Always have an exit strategy." They burst out into a courtyard. A small human ship waited there, its engines already running. Another human stood at the entrance, a woman with cold eyes and a large weapon. "Get in, Captain," she said. "We have maybe 2 minutes before they seal the spaceport." Park pushed Daehyun up the ramp. The ship's door closed behind them and the engines roared to life. Through a window, Daehyun watched the palace fall away beneath them as they shot into the night sky. He collapsed into a seat, his whole body shaking. His father was dead. He had to be. And his brothers would hunt Daehyun across the entire empire. He had nothing. No army, no friends with power, no way to fight back. Why did you save me? He asked Captain Park. You barely know me. This will cause problems between Earth and whoever wins the throne. Park sat down across from him. The easy smile was gone now. His face was hard and serious. I've read your papers, Prince Daehyun. Your ideas about constitutional reform, about limiting the power of the throne, about giving regular people a say in their government. You're exactly what this empire needs. I'm nothing, Daehyun said bitterly. I'm the useless third son. I have no army, no support, no power. You won't be nothing, Park said. His smile returned, but it was different now. Colder. Dangerous. Humans are very good at regime change, Prince Daehyun. We've been doing it for thousands of years on our own world. We've overthrown kings, toppled empires, and built new governments from the ashes of the old. Daehyun stared at him. What are you saying? I'm saying that Earth has decided you should be emperor, Park said calmly. And when humans decide you're king, we make it happen, whether the galaxy likes it or not. The ship jumped to faster than light speed, leaving the capital behind. Daehyun looked out at the stars streaking past and realized his life had just changed forever. He wasn't running away. The humans had other plans, and somehow that was more terrifying than his brothers. The human base was hidden inside a dead moon in a system nobody cared about. From the outside, it looked like any other lifeless rock floating in space. Inside was a small city of metal corridors, living quarters, and technology that made Daehyun's head spin. Captain Park led him through the base to a conference room where two other humans waited. A woman in a dark suit stood by a wall covered in screens showing maps and data. A man in military uniform sat cleaning a weapon that looked far too advanced for something so small. Prince Daehyun, the woman said, extending her hand. I'm Ambassador Ji-won Song. This is Colonel Min-ho Choi. Welcome to humanity's unofficial presence in your empire. Daehyun shook her hand, confused. Unofficial? Earth's government doesn't officially know we're here, Ji-won said with a slight smile. We're what you might call a special operations unit. We find opportunities and take them. Right now, you're our opportunity. Min-ho looked up from his weapon. Sit down, Prince. We need to talk about making you an emperor. Daehyun sat. Nothing made sense anymore. My brothers control the military. They have the support of the noble houses. The empire is fracturing as we speak, with warlords claiming planets for themselves. I'm one man with no army and no resources. How can you possibly think I can become emperor? Because you're thinking like a Vraxian, Park said, sitting across from him. You think power comes from fleets and armies and noble houses. That's the old way. Humans learned a long time ago that real power comes from something else. From what? Daehyun asked. From narrative, Ji-won said. She touched a screen and images appeared. Stories, belief, legitimacy. Your father was killed in a coup. Your brothers are fighting each other for the throne. But you? You're the righteous prince who survived. The scholar who wants to reform the empire. The man who represents hope for change. That's just a story, Daehyun protested. All power is just a story, Min-ho said. Why does anyone follow an emperor? Because of a story about divine right or tradition or strength. We're going to create a better story, and then we're going to use every trick humans have learned in 10,000 years of warfare to make that story come true. Over the next week, they taught Daehyun things that shocked him. Humans didn't fight like other species. They didn't believe in honorable battles or following rules. They fought to win using whatever methods worked. Ji-won showed him information warfare. You can destroy an enemy without firing a shot, she explained. Find their secrets. Expose their crimes. Turn their own people against them. Make them weak before you ever face them in battle. Min-ho taught him about guerrilla tactics. Never fight fair, the colonel said. Hit where they're weak. Run when they're strong. Make them afraid. Make them uncertain. An enemy who doesn't know where you are or when you'll strike is already half defeated. Park focused on recruitment. You need people who believe in you, he said. Not because you're powerful, but because you're right. Find the people your empire has failed. The officers passed over for promotion because they weren't noble-born. The merchants robbed by corrupt officials. The common people who want a better life. Give them hope and they'll give you an army. Daehyun's head spun with new ideas. On his homeworld, Warfare was about fleets meeting in open space, about honor and tradition. But humans thought differently. They saw patterns and weaknesses everywhere. "I know this is hard to accept," Park said one evening as they ate together. "Your people fight one way. We fight another, but our way works. We've overthrown empires, defeated enemies who outnumbered us 100 to 1, and survived wars that should have destroyed us. We're still here because we're very, very good at winning." "It feels wrong," Daehyun admitted. "Dishonorable. Honor is a luxury for people who don't need to win," Minho said bluntly. "You want to reform your empire? You want to save your people from your brother's tyranny? Then you need to survive first. And survival means doing whatever it takes." They began recruiting. Park had contacts throughout the empire, people who dealt with humans and trusted them. Messages went out in secret codes, using methods that the Imperial intelligence services couldn't trace. Daehyun's old friend Subin came first. She had been a logistics officer in the Imperial Navy, but was discharged when she refused a corrupt admiral's advances. She arrived at the base angry and ready to fight. "I always knew you'd do something important," she told Daehyun, hugging him tightly. "I just didn't think it would be starting a war." Next came Captain Yoonji of the Imperial Navy. She was a decorated officer who had been passed over for promotion repeatedly because she wasn't from a noble family. She brought detailed information about fleet movements and which officers were unhappy with the new regime. "Taejin declared himself emperor yesterday," Yoonji reported. "Youngho disputes his claim. They're gathering their fleets for a confrontation. The empire is tearing itself apart." "Good," Jiwon said coldly. "Let them fight. Every ship they destroy is one we don't have to face. Every planet that declares independence is one less world we need to liberate. Chaos is our friend right now." A merchant lord named Jiho arrived next. His family had been wealthy until Taejin seized their holdings and accused them of treason. Jiho had barely escaped with his life, but he still had contacts and resources hidden across the empire. "I can fund your war," Jiho said. "I can move supplies and people without anyone noticing. But I want to promise, Prince Daehyun, when you're emperor, the merchant class gets representation in government. No more can nobles simply take what they want from us." "You have my word," Daehyun promised. More people came. Junior officers, frustrated bureaucrats, minor nobles who saw no future under Taejin or Youngho's rule. Each brought something valuable: information, resources, ships, or simply their loyalty. The movement grew. Minho trained them in human combat tactics. He showed them how to hack Imperial systems, how to stage ambushes, how to disappear and reappear where the enemy didn't expect. The recruits were shocked at first, then excited. These methods worked. Their first real operation came a month after Daehyun's escape. His loyal retainer Seok-jin was being held on a prison moon, scheduled for execution as a traitor. Minho planned the rescue. "We're not going to fight our way in," the colonel explained. "We're going to hack their systems, feed them false information, and make them think there's an emergency somewhere else. While they're distracted, we walk in the front door, take Seok-jin, and leave. They won't even know we were there until we're gone." It worked perfectly. They created fake reports of a prison riot in another sector. The guards rushed to respond to an emergency that didn't exist. A small team led by Park simply walked into Seok-jin's cell, cut his restraints, and walked out. By the time the prison authorities realized what had happened, Seok-jin was on a ship jumping to faster than light speed. "This is impossible," Seok-jin said when Daehyun greeted him at the base. "How did you do this?" "Humans," Daehyun said simply. "They fight differently than we do." News of the rescue spread quickly. The prison was supposed to be impossible to break into, yet Daehyun's forces had done it without firing a shot. Fear began to spread among Taejin's supporters. What else could these rebels do? More defections came. Entire ships changed sides. Planetary governors quietly sent messages offering support. The movement that had started with nothing was becoming an army. Jiwon began her propaganda campaign. She exposed Taejin's crimes through leaked documents. She showed the galaxy evidence of corruption, murder, and theft. She created videos of Daehyun talking about reform and justice. She made the prince into a symbol of hope. "You're not just a man anymore," she told Daehyun. "You're an idea. You represent everything your brothers aren't. Use that." Late one night, Daehyun found Park looking at star maps. "Do you really think this will work?" he asked. "Can we actually win?" Park looked at him seriously. "Prince Daehyun, My people have been overthrowing governments since before we left our planet. We've turned slaves into kings and kings into nothing. We've toppled empires that thought they were invincible. Yes, we can win. The question is, are you ready for what winning will cost? Daehyun didn't answer. He was beginning to understand that winning meant becoming someone different than who he'd been. The scholar prince was dying. Something harder was being born in his place, and there was no going back. The war began not with battles, but with words and whispers. Jiwon called it information warfare, and Daehyun watched in amazement as she tore apart his brother's reputation without firing a single shot. Documents appeared on public networks across the empire. Financial records showing how Taejin had stolen from the imperial treasury, communications proving he'd ordered the assassination of loyal officers. Videos of him laughing about killing their father. Some of the evidence was real. Some was carefully created by human experts. Nobody could tell which was which. Is it wrong to lie? Daehyun asked Jiwon one day as they prepared another release of damaging information. She looked at him with those cold eyes. Is it wrong to let a tyrant rule? Your brother has killed thousands. He'll kill millions if he stays in power. If a few lies help stop him, then those lies serve a greater truth. Daehyun wasn't sure he agreed, but he said nothing. He was learning that winning required compromise. The propaganda campaign worked brilliantly. Planets that had declared for Taejin began to waver. Officers questioned their loyalty. Common people rioted in the streets, demanding justice. The empire that had seemed united under Taejin's iron fist began to crack. Park focused on military defections. He met secretly with imperial officers who were unhappy with the new regime. He showed them evidence of Taejin's crimes. He offered them a better future under Daehyun's rule. And he made quiet threats about what would happen to those who stayed loyal to a tyrant. You're blackmailing them, Daehyun said after one such meeting. I'm giving them a choice, Park corrected. Support a murderous dictator or support reform. Most people will choose the right side if you give them a good reason and remove their excuses. Admiral Eunji became their greatest asset. She knew every officer in the fleet, knew their weaknesses and their ambitions. She sent personal messages to hundreds of them, reminding them of old friendships and shared values. She asked them to think about what kind of empire they wanted to serve. 30 ships defected in a single week, then 50 more, then entire battle groups. Taejin's seemingly unstoppable fleet began to dissolve as officers made the calculation that Daehyun was the safer bet for their futures. But the human methods troubled Daehyun deeply. When Minho suggested destroying a civilian space station to deny Taejin a supply base, Daehyun refused. Thousands of innocent people live there, he said, and millions will die if Taejin wins. Minho replied coldly, This is war, Prince. People die in wars. You can choose which people, but you can't choose none. They argued for hours. Finally, Park intervened. We'll find another way, he said. But Daehyun, you need to understand something. Every choice you make has a cost. If we don't hit that station, we'll have to fight harder somewhere else. More of our people will die. You're not avoiding blood. You're just choosing whose blood to spill. The words haunted Daehyun. He had always thought of himself as a good person, someone who cared about doing right. But now he was making decisions that got people killed. Was he becoming like his brothers? You're nothing like them, Subin told him one evening when she found him staring at casualty reports. They kill because they enjoy power. You kill because you're trying to save people. That difference matters, does it? Daehyun asked. The dead don't care why they died. No, but the living care why they live, Subin said. You're fighting to create a better empire. That makes the sacrifice meaningful. The turning point came when Admiral Eunji made her move. She had been pretending to remain loyal to Taejin, rising in his ranks. When he promoted her to command a third of his fleet, she waited for the perfect moment. During a military parade celebrating Taejin's reign, Eunji broadcast a message to the entire empire. She stood on the bridge of her flagship wearing her full uniform and spoke clearly. I am Admiral Eunji of the Imperial Navy. I served the empire faithfully for 20 years. I watched as corrupt nobles destroyed everything I swore to protect. Today I declare for Prince Daehyun the rightful heir. He offers reform, justice, and a future worth fighting for. To all officers who remember their oaths, join me. It's time to take our empire back. 30 ships followed her immediately. By the end of the day, over 100 had declared for Daehyun. A third of the Imperial Navy changed sides in a single stroke. Taejin's rage was terrible. He ordered Yoonji's family arrested and threatened to execute them. But Park had moved them to safety weeks ago, predicting exactly this response. Jiwon broadcast Taejin's threats across the empire, showing everyone his cruelty and desperation. "You're winning," Jiwon told Daehyun as they watched the news feeds. "The narrative is shifting. You're becoming the symbol of justice fighting against tyranny. Your brother is becoming the monster. This is how you win wars in the modern age." But Daehyun felt sick. His brothers had killed their father. Now he was destroying Taejin's empire piece by piece. Was he any better? Was this justice or just another power struggle? Park found him alone that night. "You're doubting yourself," the human said. It wasn't a question. "I'm becoming someone I don't recognize," Daehyun admitted. "I used to write papers about peaceful reform. Now I'm planning military campaigns and approving propaganda that destroys people's reputations. Even when it's true, it feels wrong." Park sat down beside him. "Let me tell you something about my world. Earth has known more war than you can imagine. We've killed each other in countless ways for countless reasons. We've built and destroyed 1,000 empires. And do you know what we learned? What? That peace is built on the graves of those who fought for it. Every good thing humans have created came at a terrible cost. Democracy? Built on revolution, freedom, purchased with blood. Justice? Won through struggle. If you want to create something better, you have to be willing to fight for it. And fighting means getting your hands dirty." "I'm afraid I'll become like my brothers," Daehyun whispered. "You won't," Park said firmly. "You know how I know? Because they would never ask that question. They never worried about becoming monsters because they already were. The fact that you're afraid of it means you're still human." "Well, you know what I mean?" Before Daehyun could respond, alarms blared throughout the base. Minho's voice came over the speakers. "All personnel to battle stations. Enemy fleet detected. Large force incoming. This is not a drill." They rushed to the command center. The screen showed a massive fleet dropping out of faster-than-light speed near their position. Hundreds of ships, all bearing Taejin's colors. "How did he find us?" Subin asked. "Doesn't matter," Minho said, already coordinating defenses. "We've been preparing for this. Everyone knows their positions. Time to see if human defensive doctrine works as well as we think it does." Jiwon was already at her station, fingers flying across screens, sending messages to our supporters across the empire. "If Taejin is here, his planets are undefended. Time to hit him where it hurts. We need to survive first," Yoonji said, studying the tactical display. "That's 3 times our strength. If we fight conventionally, we'll lose." "Then we won't fight conventionally," Minho said with a dangerous smile. "We'll fight like humans, and we'll teach the galaxy why that's terrifying." Daehyun watched the enemy fleet approaching and felt a strange calm settle over him. All the doubts, all the questions about right and wrong faded away. There would be time for philosophy later. Right now he had a battle to win. "What are your orders, my prince?" Yoonji asked, looking to him. He straightened, feeling the weight of command. "We trust our human advisors. They've gotten us this far. Colonel Minho, the battle is yours. Ambassador Jiwon, start the political offensive. Admiral Unji, prepare our fleet for human tactics." He paused. "And someone tell my brother that if he wants me dead, he'll have to work for it." As the base went to full alert and ships moved into position, Park stood beside Daehyun. "Ready for your first real battle?" "No," Daehyun admitted. "But I'll fight it anyway." "Good answer," Park said. "Now let's show the galaxy what happens when humans prepare a defense. This is going to be educational." On the screens, Taejin's fleet advanced, confident in their superior numbers. They had no idea what was waiting for them. They were about to learn that humans didn't fight fair. They fought to win, and Daehyun was about to learn the same lesson. The battle began like no battle Daehyun had ever studied. Traditional Vraxian warfare involved fleets meeting in open space, exchanging fire until one side broke and fled. It was almost ceremonial, governed by centuries of tradition and honor. Humans had no such traditions. "First wave incoming," Minho announced from the tactical station. "Right on schedule. They think they're going to crush us with overwhelming force. Let's educate them." Taejin's fleet advanced in formation, hundreds of ships moving together like a massive predator approaching its prey. They expected Daehyun's smaller force to either run or die quickly. Instead, nothing happened. The defensive positions remained silent. "They're getting nervous," Yoonji said, watching the enemy communications. "Their commanders are confused why we're not responding." "Let them get closer," Minho said calmly. Patience wins battles. Daehyun watched the screens, his heart pounding. The enemy fleet was now entering the asteroid field where the base was hidden. Ships maneuvered between the massive rocks, their sensors searching for targets. Now, Minho said quietly, the asteroids came alive. What Taejin's fleet thought were lifeless rocks were actually hiding places for dozens of ships, all running cold and silent. They powered up simultaneously and opened fire at point-blank range. The enemy formation shattered. Ships exploded or spun out of control, damaged before they could even respond. The perfect military formation became chaos in seconds. Drone swarm launch, Minho ordered. Thousands of small drones poured from hidden positions. They were cheap, simple, and deadly. Each carried enough explosives to damage a ship's shields. They swarmed the enemy fleet like angry insects, too numerous to shoot down, too small to waste heavy weapons on. This is madness, one of the Vraxian officers whispered, watching the unconventional tactics. This is human warfare, Park corrected. We learned long ago that honor gets you killed. Effectiveness keeps you alive. The enemy fleet tried to regroup, but Minho had prepared surprises everywhere. Missiles that had been floating dormant in space suddenly activated, striking from unexpected angles. Asteroids that seemed natural were actually concealing weapons platforms. Every assumption Taejin's commanders made about the battlefield was wrong. They're trying to retreat, Yoonji reported. Their formation is collapsing. Let some of them go, Minho said. Survivors spread fear, but make sure the ones who escape are thoroughly terrified. Just as the battle seemed won, G1 appeared on all the command screens. We have a problem. Broadcast coming through from multiple sources. You need to see this. The screen changed to show Young-ho, Daehyun's other brother. He stood in what looked like a government building, wearing imperial robes. Behind him were captured officials and military officers, people of the empire. Young-ho said with his characteristic cold smile, I have proof that Taejin ordered our father's murder. I have witnesses who will testify to his crimes. I am declaring myself the rightful emperor and calling for all loyal citizens to support me against both the usurper Taejin and the rebel Daehyun. That crafty bastard. Sobin whispered. The broadcast continued. Documents appeared, showing conversations between Taejin and his conspirators planning the assassination. Officers gave testimony. Evidence piled up, all of it damning to Taejin. Daehyun stared at the screen, confused. But some of that evidence is what we found. How does Young-ho have it? Jiwon's face was grim. He doesn't, that's my work. I created those documents, those testimonies. Young-ho is using our own propaganda against both his brother and us. He's smart, Park admitted. He waited for us to destroy Taejin's reputation, then swooped in to claim the moral high ground. Now he looks like the legitimate heir while painting you as just another power-hungry rebel. The battle was still raging, but Daehyun could barely focus on it. The situation had just become far more complicated. With Young-ho claiming the throne and presenting himself as the justice seeker, many of their supporters might switch sides. What do we do? Daehyun asked. Jiwon was already working, her fingers flying across multiple screens. We counterattack. Politically, I mean. Young-ho wants to play the information warfare game? Fine. But he's playing against humans and we invented this game. She worked with intense focus while the battle continued around them. After several minutes, she looked up with a predatory smile. Done, broadcasting in 3, 2, 1. New images filled the screens across the empire. These showed Young-ho meeting with Taejin before the assassination. They showed him helping plan it. The documents proved that both brothers had conspired together to kill their father, planning to split the empire between them before betraying each other. Some of this is real, Ji-won explained. Some is fabricated, but it's all convincing. The beauty of this is that even Young-ho won't know what's real and what we created. He'll spend all his time defending himself instead of attacking you. Daehyun felt sick again. His own carefully created propaganda was being turned against his brother. Lies built on lies, truth mixed with deception until nobody knew what was real. Park put a hand on his shoulder. I know this bothers you, but think about what your brothers have done. They murdered your father. They've killed thousands of loyal subjects. They've torn the empire apart for their own ambition. Using their own methods against them isn't wrong. It's justice. Before Daehyun could respond, Minho spoke up. Enemy flagship is breaking away from the battle. Looks like Taejin is retreating. Let him go, Daehyun said quietly. Let him run back to whatever territory he still controls and see the damage Young-Ho's claim has done to his support. The battle wound down. Taejin's fleet retreated, leaving behind dozens of destroyed or captured ships. The victory was total, achieved with minimal losses on Daehyun's side. Human tactics had worked perfectly, but Daehyun felt no joy. He walked through the base after the battle, seeing the celebrating crews, and felt empty inside. They had won by fighting dirty, by using tactics that would have been considered dishonorable in any previous war. Was this really better than what his brothers had done? He found Subin in her quarters reviewing supply reports. She looked up when he entered and saw his expression. "You're struggling with this," she said. "It wasn't a question. I keep wondering if we're any better than they are," Daehyun admitted. "We lie, we manipulate, we use every dirty trick the humans can teach us. How does that make us the good guys?" Subin was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Can I tell you a secret? Something I've never told anyone?" Daehyun nodded. "Young-Ho didn't escape on his own when Taejin made his move," she said softly. "I helped him escape. The humans asked me to do it. They wanted both your brothers alive and fighting each other because it would divide the enemy. I didn't question it. I just did what they asked." Daehyun stared at her. "You helped my father's other murderer escape?" "I helped create the conditions for you to win," she replied. "And I would do it again. Because you're going to save this empire, Daehyun. You're going to end the corruption and the tyranny. But to do that, you first have to survive. And survival means doing terrible things sometimes." She looked at him with tears in her eyes. "I'm not a good person anymore. The humans taught me to be practical, to think strategically, to do whatever it takes. I've helped arrange assassinations. I've distributed lies. I've done things that will haunt me forever. But I did them so you could win, so our empire could have a future. Was I wrong?" Daehyun wanted to say yes. He wanted to say that the ends don't justify the means, that they should have found a better way, but he knew the truth. Without the human methods, without the lies and manipulation and ruthless tactics, he would be dead. His brothers would rule and millions would suffer. "No," he said finally. "You weren't wrong. Neither were the humans. This is just what war costs, what winning costs." He left Subin's quarters and found Park on an observation deck looking out at the stars. "We won," Daehyun said. "You sound like that bothers you," Park replied. "It does. But it shouldn't. My brothers are murderers and tyrants. Stopping them is worth the price." Daehyun paused. "I'm just realizing that I'll have to live with that price for the rest of my life." Park nodded. "Every leader does. The good ones anyway. The bad ones never think about the cost at all." He looked at Daehyun seriously. "You're going to be a good emperor. Not because you're perfect, but because you understand what it costs to win. That awareness will make you careful with power. It will make you value peace. It will make you remember why you fought in the first place." "To create something better," Daehyun said. "Exactly. Now come on. We need to plan the next move. Young-Ho is regrouping. Taejin is wounded but dangerous, and half the empire is trying to figure out which side to join. This war is far from over." As they walked back to the command center, Daehyun felt different. The doubt was still there, but so was determination. He would win this war. He would become emperor, and then he would build the kind of empire that made all the sacrifices worthwhile. The humans had decided he should be king. Now he had to prove they had chosen wisely. 6 months after the battle, Daehyun stood in what had once been his father's throne room. It looked different now. The massive throne was gone, replaced by a simpler chair. The walls that once displayed weapons and trophies now held documents. The new constitution, the Charter of Rights, the reforms that would reshape the empire. He had won. Not through a single decisive battle, but through attrition, politics, and the slow grinding weight of human strategy. Taejin controlled only a handful of outer systems now, a warlord clinging to scraps of power. Young-Ho had been captured 3 weeks ago after his own officers betrayed him. Tired of his paranoid purges, the empire was Daehyun's, but the galaxy was watching what he would do with it. "They're ready for you," Subin said from the doorway. She looked different too, harder and older. The war had changed everyone. Daehyun straightened his robes and walked to the great hall where representatives from across the empire waited. This was the moment that mattered more than any battle. This was where he proved the war had been worth fighting. The hall fell silent as he entered. Hundreds of representatives sat in rows, nobles and commoners, military officers and merchants, humans and various alien species. They all watched him with different expressions, some hopeful, some skeptical, some afraid. He took his place at the center and looked at them all. No prepared speech. He would speak from his heart. My father ruled this empire for 40 years, he began. He was not a bad man, but he believed in the old ways. He believed the emperor's word was law, that power flowed from the throne to the people like water flowing downhill. That way of thinking killed him. It nearly destroyed our empire. He paused, letting the words sink in. I fought a war to claim my father's throne. Many of you fought with me. We all sacrificed. We all lost people we loved. And now I stand here and you want to know what kind of emperor I'll be. Daehyun looked at the simple chair behind him. I'm going to be the last kind of emperor you expect. Because I'm going to limit my own power. This constitution we've written together doesn't give me absolute authority. It gives me responsibility. It creates a parliament where you, the people, have a voice. It ensures that no emperor can ever become a tyrant again. Murmurs spread through the hall. This was radical, unprecedented. Emperors didn't give up power willingly. Some of you think this makes me weak, Daehyun continued. Maybe it does. But I learned something from the humans who helped me win this war. Real strength isn't about how much power you have. It's about knowing when not to use it. It's about building systems that outlast any single person. It's about creating something better than what came before. Ambassador Jiwon sat in the front row with Captain Park and Colonel Minho. She nodded slightly, approving. The galaxy is watching us, Daehyun said. They're watching to see if an empire can change, if we can become something new. I say we can. I say we must. Not because it's easy, but because our people deserve better than the old ways. They deserve a government that serves them, not rules them. He looked around the hall, meeting eyes. This constitution is my promise to you. I will be emperor, but I will be limited by law. If I abuse my power, you can remove me. If I fail you, you can replace me. That's how it should be. That's how we build something worth passing to our children. The hall erupted in debate. Some representatives stood and cheered. Others argued. The merchants looked pleased. Many nobles looked horrified. But they were talking, arguing, engaging. Democracy was messy and loud, Jiwon had warned him. But it was also alive. Later that evening, Daehyun met with the humans in a private room. The hegemony sent another message, Park said. They're not happy about human interference in galactic politics. They're calling it destabilizing. What do they want? Daehyun asked. They want you to expel all human advisors and submit to hegemony oversight, Jiwon said. Basically, they want to control your empire through their own puppets. They're threatening economic sanctions if you refuse. Daehyun felt anger rise in him. After everything we've accomplished, they want to take it away? Put us back under foreign control? They're afraid, Minho said bluntly. Afraid of what you represent. If your reforms work, other empires might want the same thing. That threatens every established power in the galaxy. They need you to fail. What will Earth do? Daehyun asked. Will you support us against the hegemony? The three humans exchanged glances. Finally, Park spoke. There's something we need to tell you. Something we should have told you from the start. Daehyun's stomach tightened. What? Earth's government never officially authorized our mission here, Jiwon admitted. We acted independently, seeing an opportunity to establish human influence. We were going to ask forgiveness later after we succeeded. So you used me, Daehyun said quietly. This was all about expanding human power. It started that way, Park admitted, but it became something more. We came here to play politics and gain influence. But watching you, working with you, we started to believe in what we were building. You changed the mission, Daehyun. You made it about more than just human interests. That doesn't answer my question, Daehyun said. Will Earth support us against the hegemony? Jiwon smiled. Earth's government is furious with us for acting without authorization. But they're also not stupid. You control a major empire now. You're a valuable ally. So yes, Earth will back you. We're sending a fleet to your capital as we speak. The hegemony won't risk war with humanity. Why? Daehyun asked. Why risk war for us? Minho laughed. Because you're useful. And because humans are really, really good at war. The hegemony knows that. They've studied our history. They know what we did to each other before we even left our planet. They're not afraid of your fleet. They're afraid of ours. Daehyun should have felt relieved. Instead, he felt manipulated. These humans had used him as a piece in their political game. But then again, he had used them too. Maybe that's what alliances were, mutual use that benefited both sides. The next day, Daehyun addressed the Hegemony Council directly through subspace transmission. He stood in his throne room with Park beside him, a visual statement of his alliance. Hegemony Council, Daehyun said formally. You demand that I expel my allies and submit to your oversight. I refuse. The Vraxian Empire chooses its own friends and makes its own decisions. We are sovereign and free. The hegemony representative, a tall alien with multiple eyes, looked displeased. You risk isolation, young emperor. The galaxy will turn against you. Then the galaxy will learn something new, Daehyun replied. That empires can be free. That people can govern themselves. That the old ways are ending, he paused. And they'll learn that humanity stands with its allies. If you threaten us, you threaten them. Behind the hegemony representative, Daehyun could see other council members whispering nervously. They were afraid. Good. Fear created respect. We will consider your words, the representative said stiffly and ended the transmission. Park grinned. That was perfect. Firm but not aggressive. Confident but not stupid. You're learning politics. I had good teachers, Daehyun said dryly. Over the next weeks, Daehyun dealt with the final pieces of his victory. Young-ho was tried publicly for his crimes and exiled to a distant world with no technology. It was merciful by galactic standards, but effective. He would spend his life isolated and powerless. Taijin was harder. He still commanded a small fleet and controlled several systems. He refused all offers to surrender. Finally, he launched one last desperate attack, throwing everything at Daehyun's capital in a suicidal assault. Daehyun led the defense personally now, commanding from a warship. He had learned from Minho, from Yoonji, from his own hard experience. The battle was short and brutal. Taejin's fleet was destroyed. They captured Taejin alive, pulled from the wreckage of his flagship. He was brought before Daehyun in chains, defiant even in defeat. You won, Taejin said bitterly. Congratulations. Now finish it. Execute me like I would have executed you. Daehyun looked at his brother. This man had killed their father, had tried to kill him, had plunged the empire into civil war. Justice demanded his death. The old ways demanded his death. No, Daehyun said. I'm exiling you like Young-ho. You'll live, but far from here, far from power. You'll have time to think about what you did. Taejin laughed harshly. Weakness. This is why you were never fit to rule. Maybe, Daehyun agreed. Or maybe strength isn't about killing everyone who opposes you. Maybe it's about being strong enough to show mercy. After Taejin was taken away, Park found Daehyun alone. The galaxy expected you to execute him. I know, Daehyun said. But I'm trying to build something different. Something better. That starts with me being different, being better than the old ways. You know the hegemony will see that as weakness too, Park warned. Let them, Daehyun said. I'm not ruling for the hegemony. I'm ruling for my people. And they deserve to see that justice doesn't always require blood. Months passed. The empire stabilized under Daehyun's rule. The constitution was implemented. The parliament met for the first time, with representatives from all levels of society. It was chaotic and loud and inefficient. It was beautiful. The hegemony backed down, unwilling to risk conflict with both Daehyun and Earth. Other empires watched carefully. Some sent ambassadors asking about the reforms. The idea was spreading.